Some horror stories start with a bang. This one started with silence. In 1979, in a quiet Wisconsin town, the Mitchell family lived an ordinary life. A father who fixed cars, a mother who worked at a diner, and their 9-year-old daughter Anna. She was a shy, smart kid who preferred the company of her teachers to other children. Then, she just stopped talking. At first, her mother figured it was just a phase, that she needed rest. But the silence soon gave way to screams in the night. And these weren't the screams of a little girl having a nightmare. Her parents, like any parents would, tried to find a rational explanation. They thought it was night terrors, something a doctor could help with. But then the neighbors started complaining. They heard the screams too, but they swore they heard 2 voices coming from Anna's room, not just one. The whispers in town shifted from sleep disorders to something much darker. The family, however, desperately tried to keep things normal. They didn't rush to a priest. They went to a doctor, then a psychiatrist, then a neurologist. Each one found something a little off, but nothing that could explain the strange scratches that appeared on Anna's arms, or how furniture would slide across the room when she had a tantrum. Her mother swore the temperature in Anna's bedroom would plummet to freezing whenever she cried. This is where the story gets truly heartbreaking. The real horror wasn't supernatural, it was human. Anna's father, David, was a practical man. He didn't believe in anything he couldn't see or fix with his hands. He accused his wife of being hysterical, of planting these ideas of possession in their daughter's head. He believed Anna needed discipline, not an exorcist. His wife, in turn, blamed his lack of faith for letting this darkness into their home. The haunting wasn't coming from a ghost. It was coming from the cracks forming in their family. The trust was breaking, and the family was falling apart from the inside out. By November, Anna was a different child. It was in her eyes. The expression wasn't a child's anymore. She began speaking in voices that were not her own, using complex words and phrases a 9-year-old couldn't possibly know. The local priest, when finally contacted, was hesitant. The church was still reeling from past exorcism scandals and was extremely cautious. But when he finally agreed to visit the Mitchell home, something happened that solidified his belief. According to his own written testimony, which still exists in diocesan archives, Anna's voice changed mid-sentence as she spoke to him. It shifted from a child's soft tone to something heavy, ancient, and cold. She spoke of secrets from the priest's past, things no one outside of his closest confidants could have known. He left that house pale and trembling, clutching his rosary and muttering prayers. You'd think the exorcism would happen right away, but it didn't. The priest insisted that all medical and psychological explanations had to be exhausted first. This process took time, precious time. During these weeks, Anna's physical health deteriorated rapidly. She stopped eating, she barely slept. Her mother reported that the walls of the house would vibrate at night. And even the family dog, once Anna's loyal companion, refused to go anywhere near her room. The isolation was becoming unbearable. The town, once a supportive community, turned on them. In a small town, rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the Mitchells were cursed. Others, more cruelly, whispered that they were faking the whole thing for attention or money. The family lost their friends. The father lost work at his garage. They were completely alone. And this is where the story hits you with a profound sense of pity, because whether you believe in demons or not, you can understand the terror of being abandoned, of screaming for help while everyone around you thinks you're a liar. The real monster wasn't just in their house. It was in the suspicion and judgment of their neighbors. When the church finally gave its approval for an exorcism, it was the dead of winter. The ritual was performed in the family's small home, as they were too afraid to move on. Witnesses who were present later described a horrifying scene. They said Anna would alternate between sobbing like a lost child and letting out guttural growls that sounded inhuman. Most chillingly, she began to speak fluent Latina language she had never been exposed to, as her family was Protestant. Throughout the ritual, strange things happened. Every time the priest recited a prayer, objects in the room would inexplicably tilt on their own picture frames on the wall, glasses on a table, even the heavy wooden crucifix hanging over the door. A local reporter who later investigated the case swore that his camera malfunctioned 3 separate times inside that house, though there's no way to prove it. After 6 grueling hours, the ritual came to an abrupt, terrifying end. The priest, exhausted, collapsed. In that same moment, Anna stopped breathing. For a few horrifying seconds, there was absolute silence. Her parents thought they had lost her. Then, just as suddenly, she took a sharp breath. Her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered 2 words. "It's gone." She then fell into a deep sleep that lasted for 2 full days. When she finally woke up, she had no memory of the past few months. It seemed, for a moment, that the nightmare was over. Peace had returned to the Mitchell house. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, the aftermath is perhaps the most tragic part. The peace didn't last. Within a year, her father, unable to cope with the trauma and the cracks in their marriage, left. Her mother became deeply, almost obsessively, religious. And Anna, she grew up a withdrawn and isolated young woman. She refused all interviews, changed her name, and moved away, desperate to escape the shadow of her childhood. The last public record of her is a police report from 1998. She was found wandering near her old family home, looking vacant, speaking to no one. That's the damage these stories leave behind. Even if you believe it was all a product of mental illness and family stress, the trauma was real. And trauma is its own kind of haunting. And here's one final, chilling twist that blurs the line between fact and folklore. Decades later, the old, abandoned Mitchell house was sold to a renovation crew. They knew nothing of its dark history. On their second day of work, one of the construction workers abruptly quit. He told his boss he wouldn't go back in there. Why, he claimed he kept hearing a little girl humming a song from the basement, even when he was completely alone in the house. The song was "You Are My Sunshine," the same lullaby Anna's mother used to sing to her before the horror began. Some locals swear an old cassette tape with that humming was found in the house, while others dismiss it as a myth. Ultimately, it forces you to wonder. Maybe the possession wasn't about a demon inside Anna. Maybe the entire family was possessed by fear, by grief, by the desperate need to find an explanation for something so utterly incomprehensible. That's the one thing that can't be exorcised. Not by a priest, not by a doctor, and not by time. The house still stands today, boarded up and forgotten. But they say on cold nights, if you listen closely, you can still hear a faint melody on the window, little girl, forever trying to remind the world that what happened there was terrifyingly, tragically real. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as chilling as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the unexplained.